Hey guys, doing another topic video today, and the topic is name an actor or actress that you think is underrated. So let's just dive right into it. We have the first one, John C. Reilly. I know he's quite appreciated, but no one considered him as one of the greatest. He's one of my favorite actors. I think he should have won an Oscar for his performance in Magnolia, Hard Eight, or Boogie Nights. He didn't even get a nomination for these three. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think John C. Reilly is somebody that, yeah, I mean, he is successful. He's successful, but yeah, more for his comedic work, for like Step Brothers, that sort of thing. And that's fine. Look, you know, to be an actor is very difficult. It's very difficult to have success in that particular profession. So I'd say he's doing pretty well. But I do agree with you. I think that he is much more talented just as an improviser, as a dramatic actor, and even just musically, all of that. I think he's got so much talent. I think he's one of the more versatile talents of his generation. A real authentic ability to be appealing dramatically. And it never feels forced. You know, a lot of times comedic actors will go into a dramatic role and will be really like intense and emoting and people will praise them. But with him, I don't think he's much more subtle than that. And that's probably why he doesn't get the credit that I think he deserves. I think the first time I really noticed that versatility with him was in the movie Chicago, a film that I do not like because, you know, musical purist, but I think that he gave one of the best performances in the film. And his performance of Cellophane was just heartbreaking, funny, endearing, charming, painful, vulnerable. I think all the things that he does very well. So yeah, good choice. Isabelle Halien, maybe because her best performances have been delivered in French cinema. She is phenomenal. Watch Elle. Oh yes, Isabelle Halien is an extraordinary talent. And in France, she's a big deal, a really big deal. But in America, I would say yes, that she is underrated. When you watch her performances, just, yeah, as you say, like the versatility, the authenticity, the rawness is extraordinary. And it's like, you watch it and you're like, Meryl Streep, who? I mean, she's just so on another level. And Elle kind of gave her that resurgence and allowed her to have that chance to be recognized, at least by the Academy in Hollywood. And that film, to me, was a great showcase for her. And I think it's one of the more refreshing roles for a female I've seen. You know, it's like, I've been watching a lot of old Hollywood films in the last few months, and it's just, you know, you have these people like Barbara Stanwyck and like a Scarlett O'Hara, these very like manipulative, sexy, very tormented women, very dark, very flawed, but also very strong. But it wasn't ham-fisted. And nowadays, with a lot of Hollywood movies, it's like, you know, you can have a female at the center, but it's very gimmicky. It's all meant to be part of this like woke narrative that they're trying to shove down our throats. It's more about trying to showcase a woman as a heroine, as a feminist, rather than just as a person. And I feel like in the role that she played in Elle, Isabelle Halien, she got to do all of that, the things that I miss, because she was, yeah, very strong, sexy, but really kind of fucked up, deeply, deeply flawed. And it was just so refreshing, you know, to see that. But, you know, French cinema. James Cagney, subtlety hidden under intensity. Interesting you say that. Subtlety is not a word people usually use when they talk about James Cagney. When James Cagney was popular, you know, like when he was alive back in the golden age of Hollywood, I would not say he was underrated. He was quite recognized in his lifetime. He won an Oscar. He had a catchphrase that everybody knew. A lot of people really admire James Cagney, but I think after his death, maybe like the late 80s, early 90s, I think for whatever reason his popularity just as like a cult icon in film started to dwindle a little bit. And I'm not really sure why that is. I mean, certainly, you know, you still hear him here and there, but you don't hear about him the way you hear about like Charlie Chaplin or Humphrey Bogart, Gary Cooper, people like that. And I think that James Cagney offers something that is so different from those people. He has one of the most different types of approaches to acting. And I think a lot of actors now that tend to be a little bit more zany in their approach, I think they owe a lot to James Cagney. People like Joe Pesci owe everything to James Cagney and the kind of wise guy that he created, the gangster. What I think is so extraordinary about him, he is an actor that I really admire, one of my favorite actors of his time in American cinema, is that, yeah, he has such intensity, but it's like, it's very over the top. It's borderline farce. Like you never know whether you're supposed to be laughing or you're supposed to be upset. Very cartoony, but in a way that, like, okay, I always compare him to Leonardo DiCaprio. Leonardo DiCaprio has a lot of those similar kind of over-the-top qualities, but yet with James Cagney, there's a real danger to it. There's an intensity. And I constantly am feeling like he's right on the edge. He's very unpredictable and you don't know what's going to happen. And there's something about that strange kind of blur between what is really cartoony and really, really dangerous that is so palpable for me as a person just watching. Like, you can't take your eyes off him. Whereas with Leo DiCaprio, he's emoting and doing a lot of this stuff, very physical, but it's to the point where it comes off as a lot of ranting and raving. All of the antics sort of remove me from it because he doesn't have that extra special kind of quirkiness to his performance quality. I know I'm in the minority on that, but you know, it's just something that I like to distinguish between the two. And yes, James Cagney, I don't know if I would call him a very versatile actor, but yes, somebody that I think I would like to do more reviews of his older movies, like Public Enemy, Angels with Dirty Faces, Roaring Twenties, that kind of stuff. Nicolas Cage. I know his recent filmography is pathetic, but at one point he was something remarkable. A true expressionist actor, unlike anyone else in his prime, drawing from physicality of the silent era. Ethan Hawke once said Cage is one of the few who changed the form. I'm really glad you said Nicolas Cage because, I mean, he did have a lot of serious dramatic chops, and we saw that early in his career, particularly in the 1980s. And yeah, somewhere along the line he became more of a joke, but to me, I don't look at that as bad. I enjoy his bad movies. You know, they're so bad that they're fun. They're so over the top that you just don't take them seriously. But I will say, when I watched, like, you know, I think it was GQ or something like that, they do those videos where like an actor will break down their most iconic performances, and I watched Nicolas Cage's just because, you know, it's Nicolas Cage, he's entertaining. And I have to say, watching him, I found a whole nother respect for him. He really is a student of his craft. He really is a student of filmmaking, and he really cares about it. And he's very aware of what he's doing. He's more interested in kind of the acting that you saw in silent films, the expressions on their faces and everything. And he's kind of drawing more on like the German expressionist stuff, kind of the Nosferatu creepy sort of thing, but also like the Boris Karloffs, the Bela Lugosi's of their time. So, you know, it's meant to have a certain quality that is not necessarily subtle, not necessarily organic. And, you know, I like that kind of acting. Invisible acting is some of my favorite, but I also do appreciate people like Nicolas Cage or James Cagney, where they can kind of take performance and make it more kind of abstract. It's not reality, it's some strange artistic place. But I think it was 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I can't quite remember, but you know, he was in a movie called Mandy, which I really, really, really loved. And I thought it was the perfect balance. It brought everything we love about Nicolas Cage to us, but like to the next level. So it's a very physical performance. It's very beast-like and like Neanderthal. It's to the point where it's very, very scary. But because the movie is very psychedelic, it's really trippy, a lot of that worked. Again, his abstract kind of physicality really, really worked. And that sort of 80s machismo that they're bringing into it allowed him to be over the top in the ways he normally is, yet still very dark and dramatic. And I think exploring aspects of that type of performance that he hadn't before. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of Nicolas Cage. Jesse Eisenberg. I'm not sure why so many people have gotten a dislike for him as an actor, just because they've disliked certain characters that's been written for him. But he's absolutely amazing and precise in The Social Network. Thank you so much for saying that. I know so many people who have like this weird, like just almost not hatred, but like a strong dislike of Jesse Eisenberg. And I cannot understand why. Why? Like I really, and every time I ask, no one has given me even a remotely compelling answer. It's just, I just don't like his face or something. And it's like, what? Like he and, you know, like Michael Cera are certainly playing a sort of kind of nerdy, awkward stereotype. But I think the both of them do it in ways that are very unique to themselves. And I think what Jesse Eisenberg brings is maybe a little bit more of a coldness. There's a realism to that. I thought that, yes, for me, his best performance was The Social Network, at least one of them. And I think it was because of that subtlety. It's that detachment from the audience that's so crucial to the character of Mark Zuckerberg, somebody that can't really connect with people, but yet you can feel it from him. It's in that quiver in his voice. Everything that he says is very deliberate and very quick. But, you know, in the eyes, you just feel something just a little bit painful, a little bit sad, but never where it's asking for it, never asking for excessive sentiment, which is perfect. It fits with the style of David Fincher, because he's not somebody that's particularly into major close-ups. I thought that was one of the great performances of that entire film. And he's also very funny. Zombieland was hilarious. But, you know, again, I think it's more kind of like in a Buster Keaton way. There's a deadpan to him where he's not asking for the sentiment, not asking for the laughs. And I personally prefer that. Adam Sandler. His performance in Punch Drunk Love and Uncut Gems were mesmerizing. I hope he can do more serious stuff. Yeah. Adam Sandler is a very interesting dichotomy. Part of me kind of respects him. You know, he makes so many bad movies, and that's unfortunately what he's been known for in the last, 10, 15 years, maybe more. Definitely a talented comedic performer, but, you know, he's just kind of become a mockery and a joke over time. But I think it's just, he's one of those people where, you know, he enjoys his life and he enjoys being comfortable in his family, so he makes movies that make a lot of money. And, you know, part of me can kind of understand that. But I also think he really owes it to himself to push himself harder, because he has so much more talent. And we've seen that, especially in a movie like Punch Drunk Love, which totally brought that sort of comedic timing, that Chaplin-esque quality, but brought a sentiment and a real beauty. That's a wonderful, wonderful film. Yeah, you know, Uncut Gems, I thought he was brilliant in that film. Absolutely brilliant. A very unlikable character, but the authenticity he brought to the character, and the physicality to him, the kind of painful, pathetic, childlike quality, all are things that I think Adam Sandler just naturally has just in his demeanor, in the way that he presents himself, and he was able to bring all that, gauge it, and capitalize on it, and bring it out in a way that really brought some grit to the Safdie brothers' work. You know, and he's been in Funny People, so I would love to see him do more of that. I could dig deeply into a bag of fairly obscure names, but what keeps coming back to me is how underrated Toni Collette is. How many times should she have been nominated for an Academy Award? The last time she was up for one was as supporting actress in The Sixth Sense in 1999. She should have been there for Hereditary without a doubt. I think it's because she knows how to hit emotions that are extremely uncomfortable. This might be the best answer on here. Toni Collette is criminally, painfully underrated. She has worked in this industry for so long, and with some of the great actors, some of the great directors, and some of the most uniquely different performances. I don't know how she doesn't get that recognition. I think you're probably right. You know, part of it is she is able to hit on emotions that are extremely uncomfortable. I should say touch on emotions that are extremely uncomfortable. And I think she's such a chameleon. I really think, I've said this before, but she's like, to me, like the Philip Seymour Hoffman, like the female version of him. And she's able to transition just so beautifully between comedy and like terrifying kind of horror in Hereditary to just raw drama. I first saw her in Emma, the Jane Austen adaptation, because when I was a little girl, I was obsessed with Jane Austen. And I thought she was very funny and endearing as Harriet, but gosh, I mean, just her career, how it blossomed from that. She's just such a chameleon. And I think that chameleons, they don't often get the recognition that they deserve because they're so good at their job. A lot of people that are known more for being a charismatic actor, having a presence on screen, they're going to be people that you recognize more as a type of persona. Whereas we don't know who she is. We don't know much about her. And that's maybe the greatest thing as an actor. You know, that's kind of the point, being able to disappear behind your roles. And so I think she does that to maybe the greatest extent, or one of them. I'm trying to think, you know, most recently, yeah, Hereditary was incredible. I just watched Knives Out for the first time, and she was really funny in that film. I'm thinking of Ending Things. She's devastating in that film, and bringing all of that kind of weird, kind of bizarre comedy and kind of edge and terror, yet pain, all of it brought together in a way that was really powerful. All the things that she does well. She's brilliant. Kyle MacLachlan. Some actors are complimented by saying they can play comedy or drama equally well. MacLachlan is one of the few who can play comedy and drama equally well at literally the same time. He shows more range in Twin Peaks alone than most leading men show in their entire careers. That is the perfect way to describe it. He can do them both at the same time. How many actors can do that? I agree with you. I think Kyle MacLachlan is an extremely underrated actor, and I am just so thankful that he was discovered by David Lynch, for the film Dune, which was not very successful. But the fact that he held on to him, as David Lynch tends to do, when he finds an actor he really likes, he likes to stick with them. But his performance in Blue Velvet was the first film I ever saw him do, and I think what's so great about that performance is, yeah, he's, you know, just kind of like a handsome, good-looking guy, somebody you wouldn't suspect does anything. And, you know, he does that very well in that film, and slowly things twist, and you start to learn more about this character and some of the decisions that he's making in the moment, and suddenly, you know, he's quite interesting himself, and he does that so seamlessly. And I remember thinking to myself, this guy is really, really talented. And yeah, once you see Twin Peaks, that's maybe the best showcase of Kyle MacLachlan as far as a David Lynch movie is concerned, or as a David Lynch work, because yes, he is able to be so comedic, but in a way that's just, it's so effortless. And yes, as well as being dramatic, he is a wonderful, wonderful character. I think one of the great characters in all of television. And yeah, he's just done so much work over the years, just a working actor. And, you know, just like small television roles and whatnot, and always good, always so versatile. But yeah, that's it for today. Maybe we'll do another one at some point, because gosh, I got tons and tons of answers for it. But yeah, interesting to hear some of your responses. That is the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. All of my Patreon supporters are here. Thank you guys for the love. And if you're interested in that and you have any questions about it, you can certainly email me. My email is below as well. Other than that, all of my social media information is below. You can watch more videos here, and you can subscribe if you'd like. Catch you next time.